The Celestial Concord Bible. 10 Commandments of the Celestial Concord. Commandment 1. Honor the divine pagan kindred and the Christian God as one essence. Commandment 2. Revere all spirits as sacred manifestations of divine creation. Commandment 3. Celebrate the eternal veil and heaven through faithful observance. Commandment 4. Participate in the ritual calendar with devotion and unity. Commandment 5. Uphold the shared mythology as a guide for spiritual truth. Commandment 6. Support the communal structure with respect for all traditions. Commandment 7. Practice syncretic rituals blending pagan and Christian customs. Commandment 8. Respect the cultural diversity of every regional heritage. Commandment 9. Seek salvation through faith in Jesus Christ's redemptive sacrifice. Commandment 10. Foster a collective European spiritual identity with compassion. Chapter 1. The Creation of the Cosmos. Verse 1. In the beginning, the divine pagan kindred, led by Zeus and Dives, shaped the skies. The heavens trembled as Perun's thunderous might and Thor's hammer carved the celestial vault, guided by Ukko's sovereign command. Luffa's radiant sun cast its first golden light, while Brigid's nurturing flame kindled the earth below, weaving life into the divine tapestry. The eternal veil unfurled its shimmering threads, binding the skies to the nascent world in a sacred union. Tribes gathered in awe, their voices rising in chants to honor the celestial harmony that would guide their days and nights. Verse 2. Thunder gods Perun and Thor forged storms, guided by Ukko's celestial will. The storms roared across the void, shaped by Perun's oak-strong power and Thor's relentless strikes, echoing Ukko's skyward decree. Rain fell as a divine blessing, nourishing the earth as Freya and Zemina prepared the soil with loving care. The eternal veil shimmered with the tempest's energy, reflecting the assembly's might to balance creation. Elders led the tribes in offerings of mead, their prayers weaving gratitude into the storm's rhythmic dance. Verse 3. Cernunnos and Brigid nurtured the earth, planting seeds with Mokosha's care. The wild spirit of Cernunnos roamed the forests, his antlered grace guiding Brigid's gentle hands as they sowed the first seeds of life. Mokosha's skillful weave enriched the soil, her threads of vitality intertwining with the earth's pulse under the eternal veil's nurturing glow. The tribes danced around budding groves, honoring the fertility deities with bread and honey, their songs rising to celebrate the land's awakening spirit. Verse 4. Odin planted Yggdrasil, connecting realms under the Christian god's design. Odin's wisdom carved Yggdrasil's roots deep into the earth, its branches stretching to link the heavens, earth and underworld, blessed by the Christian god's divine plan. Athena joined him, her strategic mind shaping the tree's balance, while the eternal veil wove its strands around the trunk in harmony. The tribes gathered at its base, offering runes and prayers, seeking a unity between pagan roots and Christian grace that would endure. Verse 5. The eternal veil emerged, uniting Otherworld and Valhalla. The eternal veil rose as a shimmering bridge, its threads merging the Celtic Otherworld's mystical mists with Valhalla's warrior halls in sacred union. Veles and Hades lent their underworld strength, guiding souls into its embrace, while the assembly's decree solidified its eternal role. The tribes knelt in reverence, their chants weaving a bond between realms, honoring the veil's sacred connection to both pagan and Christian spirits. Verse 6. Fertility deities Freya and Zemina blessed the land with abundance. Freya's love flowed like a river, her blessings ripening the fields with golden grain, while Zemina's earthy care ensured the crops thrived under her watchful gaze. Demeter's hands guided the harvest, her grain joining the yield under the eternal veil's radiant touch. The tribes celebrated with garlands and feasts, their gratitude rising to the assembly for the land's generous and bountiful gifts. Verse 7. Veles and Hades guarded the underworld, aligning with divine order. Veles tended the roots with quiet, earthy strength, his cattle grazing the underworld's shadowed edge, while Hades judged souls with solemn just care. The eternal veil bound their realms, its shadows reflecting the assembly's divine order in a cycle of life and death. The tribes offered libations of mead and water, their voices honoring the guardian's silent watch over the departed souls. Verse 8. Athena and Odin bestowed wisdom upon humanity. Athena's temple wisdom flowed like a clear stream, her strategies enlightening the tribes with divine insight, while Odin's runic lore revealed hidden truths from the depths. The eternal veil glowed with their shared enlightenment, guided by the assembly's will to uplift. Skalds and druids gathered, their meditations seeking the wisdom that would shape the destiny of all people. Verse 9, the Christian God declared the creation good, reflecting his essence. The Christian God's voice rang out with divine authority, his holy light affirming the cosmos's goodness as a mirror to his sacred essence. Jesus' presence softened the edges, blending pagan creation with Christian grace under the eternal veil's unifying glow. The tribes raised hymns of praise, their faith strengthened by this harmonious union of divine wills across traditions. Verse 10, spirits like ravens and domovoi arose as nature's guardians. Ravens soared with prophetic keen eyes, while domovoi guarded hearths with unseen protective care, their spirits rising from the earth's heart. The eternal veil wove their essence into the land, blessed by the assembly's decree of harmony. The tribes honored them with offerings of grain and herbs, their chants echoing the guardian's protective dance across the realm. Verse 11, the cosmos was completed, a harmony of pagan and Christian will. The skies, earth and underworld aligned in a symphony of pagan strength and Christian love, their union glowing under the eternal veil's radiant embrace. The assembly's voices merged, their power shaping a balanced and beautiful realm. The tribes rejoiced, their rituals cementing the harmony that would guide their lives and endure through time. Verse 12, the assembly deliberated, establishing the eternal veil's unity. The divine assembly gathered in a sacred council, their collective wisdom shaping the eternal veil's role as a unifying eternal force. Lufa's radiant light and Hades's shadowy depths danced together, blessed by the Christian God's grace and Jesus' redemptive spirit. The tribes knelt in reverence, their prayers weaving the veil's eternal bond, a legacy to guide their future with hope and faith. Chapter 2, the storm forging. Verse 1, Zeus and Purin gathered clouds, their thunder echoing divine power. The skies darkened as Zeus, with his sovereign might, and Purin, with his thunderous roar, gathered swirling clouds, their power resonating across the realms. Lufa's radiant light pierced the tempest, guiding the storm's formation, while the eternal veil trembled with the assembly's strength. The tribes gathered beneath the storm, offering prayers of awe, their voices rising to honor the celestial forces shaping the heavens. Verse 2, Thor swung Mjolnir, joining Perkunas in a storm's creation. Thor's mighty hammer Mjolnir, arced through the air, its strikes joining Perkunas's lightning to craft a storm of unmatched fury. Ukko's skyward command directed the tempest's path, while Freya's blessings softened the rain's edge. The eternal veil glowed with their combined might, reflecting the assembly's will, as the tribes chanted hymns, their spirits lifted by the storm's divine rhythm. Verse 3, Ukko's sky command guided the tempest across realms. Ukko's voice thundered from the heavens, his celestial command steering the tempest through the lands of the tribes with precision. Athena's strategic wisdom shaped its course, ensuring balance, while the eternal veil carried the storm's energy across realms. The people watched in reverence, their offerings of grain rising to honor Ukko's guidance, uniting the skies in sacred harmony. Verse 4, the eternal veil trembled, reflecting the assembly's might. The eternal veil quivered with divine energy, its threads mirroring the assembly's collective power as the storm raged above. Veles anchored the earth's response, while Hades steadied the underworld's depths, their presence stabilizing the veil. The tribes gathered around sacred fires, their meditations connecting to the veil, seeking strength from the assembly's unified might. Verse 5, rain nourished Brigid's fields, blessed by the Christian God. The rain fell gently, nourishing Brigid's verdant fields with life-giving drops, its blessing affirmed by the Christian God's divine grace. Zemina's earthy care welcomed the water, while Demeter's hands guided the growth below the eternal veil's glow. The tribes rejoiced, offering flowers and songs, their gratitude weaving a bond between pagan nurture and Christian blessing. Verse 6, Odin observed, weaving wisdom into the storm's rhythm. Odin stood watch, his single eye gleaming with insight, weaving the storm's rhythm into a tapestry of ancient wisdom. Athena joined him, her counsel refining the pattern, while the eternal veil pulsed with their shared knowledge. The tribe's skalds sang of this wisdom, their voices rising to honor the assembly's guidance through the tempest. Verse 7, Veles channeled Earth's response, aligning with Hades. Veles drew the Earth's deep strength upward, his cattle grazing as he channeled the storm's energy, aligning with Hades's underworld calm. The eternal veil bound their efforts, its shadows reflecting the cycle of life and death. The tribes offered libations, their chants honoring the guardian's role in maintaining the realm's balance. Verse 8, the people offered blots, honoring the thunder gods. The tribes gathered around oak altars, offering blots of mead and meat to honor the thunder god's mighty work. Perun's strength and Thor's protection were celebrated, their power echoing through the eternal veil. Elders led the rites, their prayers uniting the community in gratitude for the storm's protective embrace. Verse 9, Jesus' presence calmed the storm, symbolizing redemption. Jesus' gentle presence descended, his calming light soothing the storm's fury, a symbol of redemption for all realms. The eternal veil softened, reflecting his grace alongside the assembly's power. The tribes knelt in prayer, their hearts lifted by this union of Christian peace and pagan might. Verse 10, ravens flew, carrying omens of the divine assembly. Ravens soared through the storm, their dark wings carrying omens of the divine assembly's will to the tribes below. The eternal veil guided their flight, its threads shimmering with prophetic signs. The people interpreted the omens, their rituals aligning with the assembly's decrees under the storm's watchful eye. Verse 11, the storm forged a bond between pagan and Christian realms. The storm's energy wove a bridge, forging a bond between pagan strength and Christian love across the realms. The eternal veil glowed with this unity, blessed by the assembly's harmony. The tribes celebrated with dances, their songs reflecting the new alliance under the storm's fading echoes. Verse 12, the eternal veil glowed, uniting heaven and earth. The eternal veil radiated with a golden light, uniting the heavens and earth in a sacred eternal bond. The assembly's voices merged, their decree sealing the connection, while Jesus' light enhanced the glow. The tribes raised their hands in praise, their faith strengthened by the veil's unifying embrace. Chapter 3, Earth's Nurturing. Verse 1, Bridget and Mokosh tilled the soil, planting life seeds. Bridget's gentle hands turned the soil with Mokosh's skillful guidance, sowing the first seeds of life beneath the earth's embrace. The eternal veil shimmered with their nurturing energy, its threads weaving vitality into the land. The tribes gathered around the fields, offering songs and water, their voices rising to honor the fertility deity's sacred work. Verse 2, Zemina and Demeter watered the fields with divine rivers. Zemina's earthy care summoned divine rivers, their waters flowing under Demeter's watchful blessing to nourish the sprouting fields. The eternal veil glowed with the river's life-giving flow, reflecting the assembly's will to sustain the earth. The people knelt by the streams, their prayers blending with the water song, celebrating the land's renewal. Verse 3, Freya blessed the harvest with love and prosperity. Freya's love infused the harvest with golden abundance, her blessings ensuring prosperity for the tribe's tables. The eternal veil wrapped the fields in her warm embrace, guided by the assembly's harmony. The tribes danced with garlands, their joy rising to honor Freya's generous spirit under the sky's watchful gaze. Verse 4, the eternal veil nourished the earth's bounty. The eternal veil pulsed with nurturing energy, its luminous threads feeding the earth's bounty with divine grace. Bridget and Zemina tended the crops, their hands guided by the veil's rhythm. The tribes offered bread and honey, their chants weaving gratitude into the land's thriving cycle. Verse 5, Velis guarded the roots, joined by Hades's underworld care. Velis stood watch over the roots with quiet strength, his cattle grazing as Hades lent his underworld care to stabilize the earth. The eternal veil bound their efforts, its shadows reflecting the assembly's order. The tribes placed offerings at the roots, their prayers honoring the guardian's unseen protection. Verse 6, the Christian God smiled, seeing his creation thrive. The Christian God's divine light shone with approval, his smile warming the thriving fields of his creation. Jesus' gentle presence blessed the growth, aligning with the eternal veil's glow. The tribes raised hymns, their faith strengthened by this union of Christian love and earthly abundance. Verse 7, offerings of grain honored the fertility deities. The tribes presented offerings of golden grain at sacred altars, honoring Bridget, Zemina, and Demeter's nurturing power. The eternal veil accepted the gifts, its threads glowing with gratitude from the assembly. Elders led the rites, their voices uniting the community in reverence for the land's gifts. Verse 8, Celtic groves and Baltic altars sang with life. Celtic groves echoed with the rustle of leaves, while Baltic altars hummed with the life of the earth's spirit. The eternal veil danced with their songs, guided by the assembly's blessing. The tribes gathered in these sacred spaces, their chants celebrating the land's vibrant heartbeat. Verse 9, Jesus taught stewardship, aligning with pagan nurture. Jesus walked among the fields, teaching stewardship with gentle wisdom, his lessons blending with pagan nurture. The eternal veil reflected this harmony, its glow uniting the tribe's care for the earth. The people listened, their hearts open to the shared guidance of Christian and pagan traditions. Verse 10, swans and bears danced, embodying nature's spirit. Swans glided gracefully, and bears lumbered with strength, their dance embodying nature's wild spirit across the land. The eternal veil wove their movements into the earth's rhythm, blessed by the assembly. The tribes watched in wonder, their rituals honoring the totem's sacred connection to the divine. Verse 11, the assembly blessed the harvest, uniting traditions. The divine assembly gathered, their blessings uniting Celtic, Germanic, and other traditions in a shared harvest joy. The eternal veil glowed with this harmony, its threads binding the tribe's efforts. The people feasted together, their songs rising to celebrate the assembly's unifying grace. Verse 12, the eternal veil reflected Earth's sacred cycle. The eternal veil mirrored the Earth's sacred cycle, its luminous weave reflecting the season's eternal dance. The assemblies will sustain the balance, guided by Christian and pagan harmony. The tribes knelt in gratitude, their prayers weaving the cycle's continuity into the veil's enduring embrace. Chapter 4, Wisdom's Quest. Verse 1, Odin sacrificed his eye, seeking wisdom at Yggdrasil. Odin stood beneath the ancient branches of Yggdrasil, offering his eye to the well of wisdom, his resolve unwavering. The eternal veil shimmered with his sacrifice, guiding his vision into the depths of knowledge. The tribes gathered at runestones, their chants honoring his quest, seeking the enlightenment that would shape their future. Verse 2, Athena offered strategic counsel from her temple. Athena's voice echoed from her sacred temple, her strategic counsel illuminating the tribes with divine clarity. The eternal veil wove her wisdom into the air, blessed by the assembly's guidance. Druids and priests knelt in reverence, their meditations drawing on her insight to navigate their paths. Verse 3, Dives illuminated the cosmos with creative insight. Dives's radiant presence lit the cosmos, his creative insight painting the stars with divine inspiration. The eternal veil glowed with his vision, reflecting the assembly's will to enlighten. The tribes raised their eyes to the heavens, their songs celebrating the light that guided their understanding. Verse 4, the eternal veil guided their quest with visions. The eternal veil pulsed with ethereal visions, its threads revealing paths of wisdom to the seeking tribes. Luffa's skillful hand and Athena's mind shaped these revelations, under the assembly's decree. The people gathered in sacred groves, their prayers aligning with the veil's guiding light. Verse 5, Purin and Zeus debated, sharing thunderous wisdom. Purin and Zeus clashed in debate, their thunderous voices sharing wisdom that echoed across the realms. The eternal veil trembled with their discourse, blessed by the assembly's harmony. The tribes listened at oak altars, their offerings honoring the wisdom born from the storm. Verse 6, the Christian God inspired knowledge through Jesus. The Christian God's divine light shone through Jesus, inspiring knowledge with gentle wisdom among the tribes. The eternal veil reflected this grace, uniting it with pagan insight under the assembly's will. The people gathered in prayer, their hearts open to this sacred blend of teachings. Verse 7, Celtic Druids and Slavic folkvi joined the search. Celtic Druids and Slavic folkvi united in the quest, their chants rising from groves and oak sites. The eternal veil guided their steps, blessed by the assembly's collective wisdom. The tribes followed, their rituals weaving a bond of shared pursuit across traditions. Verse 8, Runes and laurel wreaths marked the path. Runes carved by Odin's hand and laurel wreaths from Athena's temple marked the path of wisdom for the tribes. The eternal veil glowed with these symbols, reflecting the assembly's guidance. The people traced the signs, their meditations deepening the quest's sacred journey. Verse 9, the assembly granted wisdom to humanity. The divine assembly convened, their collective will granting wisdom to humanity with a radiant decree. The eternal veil shone with this gift, blessed by Christian and pagan harmony. The tribes rejoiced, their songs rising to honor the enlightenment bestowed upon them. Verse 10, Ravens carried the knowledge across realms. Ravens soared with dark wings, carrying the assembly's knowledge across the realms with prophetic grace. The eternal veil guided their flight, its threads shimmering with divine insight. The tribes interpreted the omens, their rituals aligning with the wisdom delivered by the birds. Verse 11, the quest united pagan and Christian intellect. The quest wove pagan cunning with Christian insight, uniting the tribe's intellect under a shared purpose. The eternal veil glowed with this harmony, blessed by the assembly's decree. The people celebrated with dances, their voices blending traditions in a song of unity. Verse 12, the eternal veil shone with enlightened unity. The eternal veil radiated with a brilliant light, its weave reflecting the enlightened unity of all realms. The assembly's voices merged, their wisdom guiding the tribes, blessed by Jesus' grace. The people knelt in gratitude, their prayers weaving the unity that would endure through time. Chapter 5, the eternal veil's formation. Verse 1, the otherworld rose, a Celtic gift to the veil. The otherworld emerged from Celtic mists, a mystical gift rising to enrich the eternal veil with its ethereal beauty. Luffa's radiant presence guided its ascent, while Brigid's nurturing flame warmed its borders. The tribes gathered at sacred wells, their chants weaving the otherworld into the veil's luminous tapestry, honoring its sacred union. Verse 2, Valhalla and Hell merged, Norse realms in harmony. Valhalla's warrior halls and Hell's silent depths merged, their Norse realms uniting in a harmonious embrace within the eternal veil. Odin's wisdom oversaw the fusion, while Thor's strength guarded the transition. The tribes offered blots at runestones, their voices rising to celebrate the balanced unity of life and death. Verse 3, the Slavic underworld joined, under Velis's guard. The Slavic underworld rose, its earthy depths joining the eternal veil under Velis's vigilant guard and Cattle's steady presence. Purin's thunder blessed the union, aligning it with the assembly's will. The tribes lit fires at oak sites, their prayers honoring Velis's protective role in this sacred convergence. Verse 4, Hades welcomed the Greco-Roman dead to the veil. Hades opened his subterranean realm, welcoming the Greco-Roman dead into the eternal veil with gentle justice. Zeus's divine authority sanctioned the integration, while Athena's wisdom guided the shades. The tribes placed laurel wreaths at temples, their chants weaving the dead into the veil's harmonious flow. Verse 5, the Baltic afterlife aligned with Perkunaz's fires. The Baltic afterlife ascended, its ethereal plane aligning with Perkunaz's fiery blessing within the eternal veil's embrace. Divsa's cosmic light illuminated the union, reflecting the assembly's decree. The tribes gathered at fire altars, their offerings of herbs honoring the sacred alignment of life and spirit. Verse 6, Tuonela's shadows enriched the Finnic contribution. Tuonela's shadowy depths rose, enriching the eternal veil with the Finnic contribution of soulful guidance. Tapio's forest wisdom blended with the shadows, guided by the assembly's will. The tribes danced at Sidas, their trances weaving Tuonela's essence into the veil's mystical unity. Verse 7, the Christian God sanctified the veil with heaven. The Christian God's holy light descended, sanctifying the eternal veil with the purity of heaven's grace. Jesus' presence blessed the union, aligning it with the assembly's harmony. The tribes raised hymns, their prayers merging Christian sanctity with pagan realms under the veil's glow. Verse 8, rituals like blots and well offerings shaped it. Blots and well offerings rose from the tribes, their rituals shaping the eternal veil with sacred energy. The assembly's guidance infused the rites, blending pagan and Christian traditions. The people gathered in groves and altars, their chants weaving the veil's form with devotion and unity. Verse 9, Jesus' light guided souls through the veil. Jesus' gentle light shone forth, guiding souls through the eternal veil with redemptive grace. The assemblies will supported his path, uniting it with pagan guidance. The tribes knelt in prayer, their voices rising to honor the light that bridged life and the afterlife. Verse 10, spirits danced, uniting pagan and Christian essence. Spirits of ravens and domovoi danced, their movements uniting pagan and Christian essence within the eternal veil's glow. The assembly blessed the dance, reflecting harmony across realms. The tribes joined in, their rituals celebrating the blended spiritual unity. Verse 11, the assembly decreed the veil's eternal role. The divine assembly convened, decreeing the eternal veil's eternal role as a bridge between worlds. Luffa's light and Hades' shadows merged, blessed by the Christian God's grace. The tribes offered prayers at sacred sites, their voices weaving the veil's enduring purpose. Verse 12, the eternal veil became a bridge to salvation. The eternal veil transformed into a radiant bridge to salvation, its threads glowing with divine promise. Jesus' sacrifice and the assembly's unity sealed its path. The tribes rejoiced, their hymns rising to honor the veil's role in guiding souls to eternal light. Chapter 6, the ritual calendar's birth. Verse 1, Samhain emerged, a Celtic harvest rite. Samhain rose from the Celtic mists, a harvest rite honoring the land's bounty with sacred fire. Lufa's radiant presence blessed the fields, while the eternal veil shimmered with the season's transition. The tribes gathered at stone circles, their chants weaving gratitude for the harvest under the assembly's watchful gaze. Verse 2, Yule arose, a Germanic solstice celebration. Yule emerged from the Germanic frost, a solstice celebration warming hearts with the Yule log's glow. Odin's wisdom guided the rites, while the eternal veil glowed with renewal's promise. The tribes feasted around runestones, their songs rising to honor the returning light blessed by the assembly. Verse 3, Saturnalia began, a Greco-Roman feast. Saturnalia dawned as a Greco-Roman feast, its joy illuminating the winter with role reversals and merriment. Zeus's authority and Athena's wisdom oversaw the celebration, while the eternal veil reflected the assembly's harmony. The tribes exchanged gifts at temples, their laughter blending with prayers of unity. Verse 4, Cupola ignited, a Slavic solstice fire. Cupola flared as a Slavic solstice fire, its flames purifying the land with sacred energy. Purin's thunder blessed the rite, while the eternal veil danced with the fire's glow. The tribes leaped over the flames, their voices rising to honor the assembly's cleansing power. Verse 5, Solstice fires blazed, a Baltic tradition. Solstice fires blazed across Baltic lands, a tradition honoring the sun's peak with radiant warmth. Perkunaz's lightning guided the flames, while the eternal veil shimmered with the season's strength. The tribes gathered at hilltops, their chants celebrating the sun's blessing under the assembly's decree. Verse 6, Midsummer rites dawned, a Finnic honor. Midsummer rites emerged as a Finnic honor, their dances celebrating the longest day with joyful grace. Tapio's forest wisdom blessed the fields, while the eternal veil glowed with the assembly's harmony. The tribes wove flower crowns, their songs rising to honor the land's vitality. Verse 7, Christmas and Easter joined, Christian gifts. Christmas and Easter joined as Christian gifts, their lights merging with pagan joy in sacred unity. The Christian God's grace and Jesus' love blessed the seasons, while the eternal veil reflected the assembly's will. The tribes raised hymns, their celebrations weaving Christian and pagan traditions together. Verse 8, the assembly blessed the calendar's unity. The divine assembly gathered, blessing the calendar's unity with a harmonious decree across all realms. The eternal veil pulsed with their collective will, guiding the seasons. The tribes knelt in gratitude, their prayers honoring the assembly's sacred bond. Verse 9, Jesus sanctified the cycle with salvation. Jesus' gentle light sanctified the ritual cycle, offering salvation to all who embraced it. The eternal veil glowed with his grace, aligning with the assembly's harmony. The tribes offered prayers, their hearts lifted by the promise of redemption woven into the seasons. Verse 10, banners of each tradition waved in harmony. Banners of Celtic knots, Germanic runes, and other symbols waved in harmonious unity across the land. The eternal veil reflected their colors, blessed by the assembly's decree. The tribes marched together, their voices blending in a song of shared heritage. Verse 11, the eternal veil guided the seasons. The eternal veil flowed with divine energy, guiding the season's eternal dance with gentle wisdom. The assemblies will shaped its rhythm, uniting the cycles. The tribes followed its lead, their rituals aligning with the veil's sacred guidance. Verse 12, the calendar united pagan and Christian time. The ritual calendar united pagan and Christian time, its cycles reflecting a shared spiritual heritage. The eternal veil glowed with this unity, blessed by the assembly and Jesus' grace. The tribes celebrated the fusion, their faith strengthened by the calendar's eternal bond. Chapter 7, the communal gathering. Verse 1, Celtic councils met in sacred groves. Celtic councils gathered in the whispering sacred groves, their voices rising under the ancient oak's canopy. Lufa's radiant presence guided their discussions, while the eternal veil shimmered with their unity. The tribes joined in song, their chants honoring the grove's wisdom under the assembly's blessing. Verse 2, Germanic skalds gathered at runestones. Germanic skalds assembled at weathered runestones, their sagas echoing Odin's wisdom through the stones. The eternal veil glowed with their storytelling, reflecting the assembly's harmony. The tribes stood in reverence, their offerings of mead strengthening the bond of their shared lore. Verse 3, Slavic folkvi convened at oak sites. Slavic folkvi gathered at mighty oak sites, their chants invoking Purin's thunderous protection. The eternal veil pulsed with their sacred energy, guided by the assembly's will. The tribes lit fires, their prayers weaving a connection to the land's ancient spirits. Verse 4, Greco-Roman priests assembled at temples. Greco-Roman priests convened in marble temples, their rituals honoring Zeus's divine justice. The eternal veil reflected their solemnity, blessed by the assembly's decree. The tribes offered laurel wreaths, their voices rising in unity within the temple's sacred halls. Verse 5, Baltic elders lit fire altars. Baltic elders kindled fire altars, their flames honoring Perkuna's fiery strength. The eternal veil danced with the fire's glow, guided by the assembly's wisdom. The tribes gathered around, their chants celebrating the light that united their spirits. Verse 6, Finnic shamans danced at Sidas. Finnic shamans danced at ancient Sidas, their movements invoking Tapio's forest wisdom. The eternal veil shimmered with their trance, blessed by the assembly's harmony. The tribes joined the dance, their songs weaving a bond with the land's sacred energy. Verse 7, Christian churches networked with councils. Christian churches linked with tribal councils, their prayers rising under the Christian God's grace. The eternal veil glowed with this union, reflecting the assembly's will. The tribes gathered in fellowship, their hymns blending with pagan chants in harmony. Verse 8, multi-tradition shrines rose in unity. Multi-tradition shrines emerged, their altars blending Celtic knots and Germanic runes in sacred unity. The eternal veil pulsed with their diversity, guided by the assembly's decree. The tribes adorned the shrines, their rituals celebrating the shared spiritual heritage. Verse 9, Jesus blessed the communal bond. Jesus' gentle presence blessed the communal bond, his light uniting the tribes in love. The eternal veil shone with his grace, reflecting the assembly's harmony. The people knelt in prayer, their hearts lifted by this sacred connection. Verse 10, the eternal veil linked all gatherings. The eternal veil wove its threads, linking all gatherings into a single spiritual fabric. The assemblies will guided the connection, blessed by Christian and pagan unity. The tribes rejoiced, their voices rising to honor the veil's unifying power. Verse 11, the assembly decreed annual meetings. The divine assembly decreed annual meetings, their collective voice shaping the tribe's unity. The eternal veil glowed with this decree, reflecting the assembly's wisdom. The tribes prepared for the gatherings, their plans woven with hope and faith. Verse 12, the community thrived in shared faith. The community flourished, its shared faith strengthening the tribes under a common bond. The eternal veil radiated with their unity, blessed by the assembly and Jesus' grace. The people celebrated together, their lives enriched by the harmony of their diverse traditions. Chapter 8, the Syncretic offerings. Verse 1, mead flowed to Thor in blots. Mead flowed freely to Thor during blots, its golden stream honoring his mighty hammer's protection. The eternal veil shimmered with the offering, guided by the assembly's will. The tribes gathered at runestones, their chants rising to celebrate Thor's strength in the sacred rite. Verse 2, grain honored Bridget at wells. Grain was offered to Bridget at sacred wells, its abundance reflecting her nurturing flame. The eternal veil glowed with the gift, blessed by the assembly's harmony. The tribes knelt by the waters, their prayers weaving gratitude for her healing presence. Verse 3, herbs blessed Tapio at Sidas. Herbs were laid at Sidas to bless Tapio, their fragrance honoring his forest wisdom. The eternal veil pulsed with the offering, guided by the assembly's decree. The tribes danced around the stones, their songs celebrating the wild's sacred guardianship. Verse 4, laurel crowned Zeus at altars. Laurel wreaths crowned Zeus at altars, their green leaves symbolizing his divine justice. The eternal veil reflected the honor, blessed by the assembly's will. The tribes offered incense, their voices rising to honor the sky god's sovereign power. Verse 5, fire fed Perkuna's altars. Fire fed Perkuna's altars, its flames leaping to honor his thunderous might. The eternal veil danced with the fire's energy, guided by the assembly's strength. The tribes gathered around, their chants praising the lightning god's protective spirit. Verse 6, the Christian God accepted all gifts. The Christian God's grace accepted all gifts, his light blessing the syncretic offerings. The eternal veil glowed with his approval, reflecting the assembly's unity. The tribes raised their hands, their prayers uniting pagan and Christian devotion. Verse 7, Jesus sanctified the offerings. Jesus' gentle presence sanctified the offerings, his light infusing them with redemptive power. The eternal veil shone with his grace, guided by the assembly's will. The tribes knelt in prayer, their hearts lifted by the sacred blessing. Verse 8, the eternal veil glowed with thanks. The eternal veil radiated with thanks, its threads aglow from the tribe's devotion. The assembly's harmony guided the light, blessed by Christian and pagan unity. The people rejoiced, their songs weaving gratitude into the veil's luminous embrace. Verse 9, councils united in the right. Councils from every tradition united in the right, their voices blending in sacred harmony. The eternal veil pulsed with their unity, guided by the assembly's decree. The tribes joined hands, their rituals strengthening the communal bond. Verse 10, spirits joined the offering dance. Spirits of ravens and nymphs joined the offering dance, their movements uniting the realms. The eternal veil glowed with their grace, blessed by the assembly's will. The tribes followed, their chants celebrating the spiritual fusion. Verse 11, pagan and Christian hands merged. Pagan and Christian hands merged in the right, their offerings symbolizing a shared faith. The eternal veil reflected their unity, guided by the assembly's harmony. The tribes embraced, their songs weaving a bond across traditions. Verse 12, the assembly blessed the synergy. The divine assembly blessed the synergy, their decree uniting all offerings in sacred purpose. The eternal veil shone with this harmony, blessed by Jesus' grace. The tribes celebrated, their faith deepened by the assembly's divine approval. Chapter 9, the meditative communion. Verse 1, Celtic wells opened to the veil. Celtic wells shimmered as portals to the eternal veil, their waters reflecting Luffa's radiant guidance. Bridget's nurturing presence blessed the opening, while the assembly's will flowed through the depths. The tribes gathered at the wells, their silent meditations weaving a bond with the veil's sacred energy. Verse 2, Norse blots invoked Valhalla's peace. Norse blots rose with mead and fire, invoking Valhalla's peaceful halls under Odin's wise gaze. The eternal veil glowed with the right, blessed by the assembly's harmony. The tribes knelt at runestones, their chants seeking the tranquility of the warrior afterlife. Verse 3, Slavic fires burned for wisdom. Slavic fires blazed at oak sites, their flames burning for Purin's thunderous wisdom. The eternal veil pulsed with the light, guided by the assembly's decree. The tribes sat in silence, their meditations drawing insight from the fire's sacred dance. Verse 4, Greco-Roman oracles sought guidance. Greco-Roman oracles gazed into temple flames, seeking Athena's guiding wisdom with reverent focus. The eternal veil shimmered with their visions, blessed by the assembly's will. The tribes listened at altars, their prayers aligning with the oracle's divine counsel. Verse 5, Baltic chants reached the afterlife. Baltic chants rose from fire altars, their melodies reaching the afterlife under Perkuna's fiery guard. The eternal veil carried the sound, guided by the assembly's harmony. The tribes joined in song, their voices bridging the living and the departed. Verse 6, Finnic trances connected to Tuonela. Finnic shamans entered trances at Sidas, connecting to Tuonela's shadowy depths with Tapio's wisdom. The eternal veil glowed with their journey, blessed by the assembly's will. The tribes watched in awe, their prayers honoring the spiritual link to the underworld. Verse 7, Christian prayers rose to heaven. Christian prayers ascended to heaven, their voices lifted by the Christian God's grace. The eternal veil reflected the devotion, guided by the assembly's unity. The tribes knelt in churches, their hymns weaving a bond with the divine above. Verse 8, Jesus guided the meditation. Jesus' gentle light guided the meditation, his presence uniting the tribes in sacred silence. The eternal veil shone with his grace, blessed by the assembly's harmony. The people closed their eyes, their hearts open to his redemptive wisdom. Verse 9, the eternal veil united all minds. The eternal veil wove its threads, uniting all minds in a shared spiritual communion. The assemblies will guided the connection, blessed by Christian and pagan unity. The tribes sat in peace, their meditations blending traditions under the veil's glow. Verse 10, the assembly shared divine insight. The divine assembly shared divine insight, their collective wisdom flowing to the tribes. The eternal veil radiated with the gift, guided by the assembly's decree. The people received the knowledge, their prayers rising in gratitude for the enlightenment. Verse 11, spirits whispered through the silence. Spirits of ravens and nymphs whispered through the silence, their voices carrying divine messages. The eternal veil trembled with their breath, blessed by the assembly's harmony. The tribes listened intently, their hearts open to the spiritual guidance. Verse 12, the communion strengthened the faith. The meditative communion strengthened the tribe's faith, their spirits renewed by the union. The eternal veil glowed with their devotion, guided by the assembly and Jesus' grace. The people rose together, their shared belief weaving a lasting bond across realms. Chapter 10, the Festival Unity. Verse 1, Samhain bonfires lit the night. Samhain bonfires blazed through the night, their flames casting a warm glow over the Celtic harvest fields. Luffa's radiant presence guided the fire, while the eternal veil shimmered with the season's sacred energy. The tribes gathered around, their chants honoring the ancestors under the assembly's watchful blessing. Verse 2, Yule feasts warmed the soul. Yule feasts filled the air with warmth, their hearths glowing with Germanic solstice joy. Odin's wisdom blessed the tables, while the eternal veil radiated with renewal's promise. The tribes shared mead and stories, their songs rising to celebrate the returning light under the assembly's harmony. Verse 3, Saturnalia reversed the roles. Saturnalia brought a joyful reversal of roles, its Greco-Roman feast lighting up the winter with laughter. Zeus's authority and Athena's wisdom oversaw the merriment, while the eternal veil glowed with the assembly's unity. The tribes exchanged gifts, their voices blending in a celebration of equality. Verse 4, Cupola fires purified the land. Cupola fires leaped high, purifying the Slavic land with their sacred cleansing flames. Purin's thunder blessed the rite, while the eternal veil danced with the fire's energy. The tribes leaped over the fires, their chants rising to honor the assembly's purifying power. Verse 5, Solstice fires honored the sun. Solstice fires blazed across Baltic hills, honoring the sun's peak with radiant warmth. Pakunas's lightning guided the flames, while the eternal veil shimmered with the season's strength. The tribes gathered at altars, their songs celebrating the sun's blessing under the assembly's decree. Verse 6, Midsummer rites danced with joy. Midsummer rites unfolded with joyful dances, their Finnic steps honoring the longest day. Tapio's forest wisdom blessed the fields, while the eternal veil glowed with the assembly's harmony. The tribes wove flower crowns, their voices rising in a celebration of life's vitality. Verse 7, Christmas and Easter united all. Christmas and Easter united the tribes, their Christian lights merging with pagan joy in sacred harmony. The Christian God's grace and Jesus' love blessed the seasons, while the eternal veil reflected the assembly's will. The tribes raised hymns, their celebrations weaving a bond across traditions. Verse 8, the eternal veil blessed the cycle. The eternal veil poured its blessing over the ritual cycle, its threads glowing with divine unity. The assembly's harmony guided the seasons, blessed by the Christian and pagan union. The tribes knelt in gratitude, their prayers honoring the veil's sacred rhythm. Verse 9, Jesus' light shone in each rite. Jesus' gentle light shone in every rite, his grace illuminating the festivals with redemptive hope. The eternal veil reflected his presence, guided by the assembly's will. The tribes offered prayers, their hearts lifted by the light that united all celebrations. Verse 10, the assembly joined the celebration. The divine assembly joined the celebration, their presence blessing the tribe's festivities. The eternal veil glowed with their harmony, guided by the assembly's decree. The people danced and sang, their joy reflecting the divine unity across the realms. Verse 11, spirits danced in the festivities. Spirits of ravens and nymphs danced in the festivities, their movements uniting the realms in joy. The eternal veil shimmered with their grace, blessed by the assembly's will. The tribes followed, their rituals celebrating the spiritual fusion of the festival season. Verse 12, the faith grew in unity. The faith grew strong in unity, the tribes shared devotion deepening with each rite. The eternal veil radiated with their bond, blessed by the assembly and Jesus' grace. The people thrived, their lives enriched by the harmonious faith that united them. Chapter 11, the Salvation Promise. Verse 1, the eternal veil prepared the soul. The eternal veil shimmered with divine grace, preparing each soul for its sacred journey with gentle guidance. Lupha's light and Hades' shadows wove its threads, blessed by the assembly's will. The tribes gathered in meditation, their prayers aligning with the veil's promise of salvation. Verse 2, Celtic ancestors guided the path. Celtic ancestors emerged from the mists, their wisdom guiding the soul's path through the eternal veil. Brigid's nurturing presence blessed their guidance, while the assembly's harmony lit the way. The tribes honored them with offerings, their chants weaving a bond with the ancestral spirits. Verse 3, Norse warriors earned Valhalla's rest. Norse warriors ascended, their valor earning Valhalla's peaceful rest within the eternal veil's embrace. Odin's wisdom welcomed them, while Thor's strength guarded their peace. The tribes raised blots, their voices celebrating the warriors' honored journey under the assembly's blessing. Verse 4, Slavic dead found peace with Veles. The Slavic dead found serene peace under Veles' guard, their souls resting within the eternal veil's depths. Perrin's thunder blessed their repose, guided by the assembly's will. The tribes lit candles, their prayers honoring Veles' protective care in the afterlife. Verse 5, Greco-Roman souls entered Hades' care. Greco-Roman souls crossed into Hades' gentle care, their journey woven into the eternal veil's luminous fabric. Zeus's justice guided their passage, blessed by the assembly's decree. The tribes offered laurel wreaths, their chants uniting the dead with the living realm. Verse 6, Baltic spirits joined the afterlife. Baltic spirits ascended, joining the afterlife within the eternal veil's glowing embrace. Pacunas' fires warmed their path, guided by the assembly's harmony. The tribes chanted at fire altars, their voices honoring the spirit's sacred transition. Verse 7, Finnic shades reached Tuonela's end. Finnic shades journeyed to Tuonela's peaceful end, their souls enriched within the eternal veil's shadows. Tupio's wisdom guided them, blessed by the assembly's will. The tribes danced at Sidas, their prayers weaving a bond with Tuonela's quiet realm. Verse 8, the Christian God opened heaven. The Christian God's radiant light opened heaven, its gates welcoming souls into the eternal veil's unity. Jesus' grace blessed the passage, guided by the assembly's harmony. The tribes raised hymns, their faith strengthened by the divine opening. Verse 9, Jesus' sacrifice redeemed all. Jesus' sacrificial love redeemed all souls, his light flowing through the eternal veil with redemptive power. The assemblies will supported his grace, uniting pagan and Christian spirits. The tribes knelt in prayer, their hearts lifted by the promise of salvation. Verse 10, the assembly blessed the journey. The divine assembly blessed the soul's journey, their collective will guiding it through the eternal veil. Lupha's radiance and Hades' care merged, blessed by the Christian God. The tribes offered gifts, their chants honoring the assembly's sacred guidance. Verse 11, spirits rose to eternal light. Spirits of ravens and swans rose to eternal light, their ascent glowing within the eternal veil's embrace. The assembly's harmony lifted them, guided by Jesus' grace. The tribes watched in awe, their prayers celebrating the Spirit's divine ascension. Verse 12, the Celestial Concord fulfilled its promise. The Celestial Concord fulfilled its promise, its unity leading souls to salvation through the eternal veil. The assembly's decree and Jesus' sacrifice sealed the bond, blessed by the Christian God. The tribes rejoiced, their faith deepened by the promise's fulfillment across all realms. Chapter 12, the Eternal Unity. Verse 1, the divine pagan kindred reigned supreme. The divine pagan kindred reigned supreme, its divine assembly governing all realms with majestic authority. The eternal veil glowed with their unity, blessed by the Christian God's grace. The tribes celebrated their reign, their chants rising to honor the enduring power of the kindred. Verse 2, Cernunnos and Brigid nurtured forever. Cernunnos and Brigid nurtured the earth forever, their hands weaving life through the eternal veil's embrace. Mokasha's skillful threads joined their care, guided by the assembly's will. The tribes danced in groves, their songs celebrating the eternal bounty of the land. Verse 3, Odin and Athena guided wisdom. Odin and Athena guided wisdom eternally, their voices illuminating the tribes through the eternal veil's glow. Devas' cosmic insight blended with their counsel, blessed by the assembly's harmony. The people gathered at runestones, their meditations honoring the endless flow of knowledge. Verse 4, Purin and Zeus thundered eternally. Purin and Zeus thundered eternally, their storms shaping the skies within the eternal veil's resonance. Thor's hammer joined their might, guided by the assembly's decree. The tribes offered blots, their voices rising to celebrate the unending power of the thunder gods. Verse 5, Devas and Ukko lit the skies. Devas and Ukko lit the skies with radiant light, their celestial power glowing through the eternal veil. Pakunaz's fires enhanced their brilliance, blessed by the assembly's will. The tribes gazed upward, their prayers honoring the eternal illumination of the heavens. Verse 6, The eternal veil linked all realms. The eternal veil linked all realms, its threads weaving a sacred bond across heaven and earth. The assembly's harmony guided the connection, blessed by the Christian God's grace. The tribes meditated at altars, their chants celebrating the veil's unifying embrace. Verse 7, The Christian God united the faith. The Christian God united the faith, his light merging pagan and Christian spirits within the eternal veil. Jesus' love blessed the union, guided by the assembly's will. The tribes raised hymns, their voices reflecting the strength of this divine harmony. Verse 8, Jesus welcomed souls to heaven. Jesus welcomed souls to heaven, his gentle light guiding them through the eternal veil's glow. The assembly's grace supported his welcome, blessed by the Christian God. The tribes prayed in joy, their hearts lifted by the promise of eternal rest. Verse 9, Spirits danced in divine harmony. Spirits of ravens and swans danced in divine harmony, their movements echoing through the eternal veil. The assemblies will bless their dance, guided by Jesus' grace. The tribes joined in, their rituals celebrating the unity of all spirits. Verse 10, The ritual calendar cycled on. The ritual calendar cycled on, its seasons flowing within the eternal veil's rhythm. The assembly's decree sustained the cycle, blessed by the Christian God. The tribes followed the rites, their festivals weaving a bond across time and tradition. Verse 11, The communal structure thrived. The communal structure thrived, its unity strengthening the tribes within the eternal veil's embrace. The assembly's guidance supported the gatherings, blessed by Jesus' love. The people met in harmony, their shared faith deepening with each meeting. Verse 12, The Celestial Concord endured as one. The Celestial Concord endured as one, its unity glowing through the eternal veil's eternal light. The assembly's will and the Christian God's grace sealed its strength. The tribes rejoiced, their songs rising to honor the everlasting harmony of the Concord.